Welcome to this video. My name is Eva, and in this video I will talk about the 20s, a huge weird time that I'm currently in, and it's basically that transition between being a teenager and being in structure to being an adult, and all of the challenges that come with that time, because I experience those challenges right now. And I just want, if you're currently in your 20s, to not feel so alone, or maybe you're already like 40 or 60, but you remember that time. So yeah, so basically, what are the 20s? The 20s are so challenging because they are a transition into adulthood, and for me they're so challenging because in school there was so much structure. So people told you, read that test, no, learn for that, study for that test, and then you write the test, and if you study, it's so predictable, you get a good grade. So that is awesome. I love that. I really did love that. And then then the first time you go out of school, for me it felt so scary because you were your whole life in a certain structure. People told you what to do, what not to do, and then suddenly you should decide for your life what you want to do with the rest of your life. And so for me that was super scary. But then I went to university kind of straight away, or maybe just a couple of months after. And now, after finishing university, I just feel like, wow, what is that? Because for me, in school, I also never struggled that much with things in general. Like, it was just super predictable. But now, like, it feels like coming out of university and you have to do with like real life, like relationships, trauma. For me, because I never had a relationship when I went to school, like suddenly for me, when I went into my first relationship and we broke up, so much trauma came up that I'm dealing with right now. And for the past 2 years, it's just so much. And there's so many questions that I have, at least in my 20s, like, who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? Where do I want to live? Where do I not want to live? And of course, in many ways, it's a huge privilege to actually have that, because many generations before, or probably also my parents, they didn't have that. They just were like, okay, this is the job that you're going to do for the rest of your life. But now for many people that has changed, and many people have that choice. And it can be, because it is a choice, it can be just quite overwhelming, and it can be just too much. And I feel like also, at least for me, it feels like school didn't prepare us for real life, because it was so predictable, and real life is not so predictable. I think real life, people can just die like that, or yeah, just disasters can happen, relationship breaks, etc. And I feel like school didn't prepare me at all. And if you don't have parents that you're super close with and that they really support you a lot with that, you need to learn a lot of things quite painfully on your own. And I feel, for example, my parents, they got me quite late, so it was just a huge different decade. When they were growing up, they didn't have the internet. They were just like, okay, you do that job. They didn't even think about moving to a different country because they didn't have that opportunity. So it's just a huge different decade. And so at least I felt quite lost at times, because you just don't know who you are. At least for me, I didn't know who I am so well. And it's just, for me, the 20s, it feels like constant crisis of so many things coming up, like trauma for me, how to have a healthy relationship. I had no idea. Like in my first relationship, I was like, okay, I really like that person. How do you do a relationship? Like, no idea, no clue, no idea how to do that. How to move how to move in an apartment. For me, how to move to a different country is a huge thing. And so it's just like, what is an insurance actually? What insurance do I need? So it's just so many different things. And I think that in school, everyone was on the same path. So everyone was kind of, okay, you write that test, everyone writes the same test. And so it was just like that, right? Like super predictable. But now people are so different. Like some people in my age, they already have children. And I'm like, how? And some other people, they're traveling like around, and some other people, they're still in the village that they grew up in, and other people, they moved to a different country. So it's just really a weird time, for me at least, where people just are so different. And it's so hard to, at least for me, in that I think when I was traveling in Asia, I experienced that so much. I just felt like I want structure. I want someone to tell me what to do. And the problem is that, and I think for me, the problem is that yes, you can have a certain career choice, but for me, if I would just do a certain career, you still don't have a guaranteed outcome that it will give you happiness or that this is the right choice. So I feel like so many things are a leap of faith. The same with moving to a different country. There's no guarantee that it will be the right choice for you or that you will love it. And I feel that it's just, life is just not how we learned it in school. I feel in school you always had that guarantee, write a test, you get a good grade or a bad grade, whatever, but you had that certainty, and in life there's so much uncertainty. And yeah, so I think that's just what I wanted to share, that I'm in that right now, just figuring out. I feel like the word for my 20s, at least the early 20s, is just figuring it out. Like, who am I? What do I want? What do I want from romantic partners? What do I want from my career? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? And I think, or an employee? Do I want to be a freelancer? Do I want to, like, so many things, right? And I think what makes it also more complicated is that you, at least for me, you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, you maybe think, okay, I'm going to be a teacher, and then you study 6 years to be a teacher, and then once you're a teacher, you realize, okay, working full-time as a teacher or even part-time, it is just not what my heart wants. And then you get depressed, and then you have to think, okay, what is it that I really want? So that is the 20s, a crazy time of, yes, having the freedom to discover. You usually don't have in your early 20s, usually most people don't have children yet, so you are not tied down to a certain place, but you can travel, you can move to a different city, you can just experience. So it's a time of freedom for me as well, but also for me a huge time of uncertainty, and it's scary and at times super frustrating. And yeah, because I feel like so many life skills that you were not taught in school. You were taught so much nonsense that I, like, so many valuable things in school. I mean, I loved school, but also so much nonsense. And I'm like, how is it possible that you never in school, I was going to school, I think 8 years, how is it possible that you never learn about psychology, like how to have a healthy romantic relationship? And I think it's because those people who made the curriculum for schools, they don't know either. So it's just the blind leading the blind, really. And yeah, and then everyone, you go out of school and out of college or university, and then everyone expects you to know it already, but you were never taught those skills. So how would you know? Like, if I grew up, maybe, yeah, I just had my first relationship and I was like, what the hell do I do? Like, no clue, no, zero clue. So now the solution to that, in my opinion, is first of all, be kind to yourself. Because it's just, you don't know what you don't know, and this is a time of just exploring, of trying out things. And if you think you want a job, you get that job and you're miserable in that job, do not say, oh my god, I'm a horrible person, but just say, okay, this didn't turn out how I expected it to turn out, so I will maybe try out something else. So I think the 20s are a huge time for me to try out, to experience, to fail, to not be mad that you failed, but just see it as something that is natural, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how adult life actually is. You don't know how's the job in real life. I mean, you can make internships to get an idea of it, but the reality you only experience once you actually do that job full time, I feel like. So yeah, so that is important. Be compassionate with yourself. Huge learning lesson for me, and I still need to learn it again and again, to be compassionate with myself and say, like, okay, entrepreneurship, I had no idea how entrepreneurship works, and I'm just figuring it out. And yeah, just seeing step by step, if it is actually what I want or if it is not what I want. So that is important. Be compassionate of yourself, and also be proud of yourself, because it feels like, at least for me sometimes, I feel like I'm starting at zero figuring things out, but in reality you've already achieved a certain amount of things. So keep going, but also acknowledge the things that you have already done. So that is important. Then handling overwhelm. So that is a huge one for me. I was so many times so overwhelmed, but also because I had really high goals, like starting in my own business when I was like, I started this when I was 18, knowing nothing about business. I didn't even know that marketing exists or what is sales. I didn't know nothing about it. So yeah, if you or also moving to a different country, like where you don't know the language yet, is such a huge goal. So just be kind to yourself and take smaller steps. And also if you feel like, okay, I cannot reach my goal in that specific time frame, to increase that time frame, to say, okay, instead of maybe taking me 2 years, it will take me 10 years, and that is okay. So yeah, I think that's really important. And also always obviously clean and organized. Life is chaotic. I feel like in your 20s you move to different countries or you move to different cities, you try out a different job, etc., etc. At least have a room that is clean. I think that helps a lot, or organized. Or for me, if I do work so much in front of my laptop, so if my laptop is organized, helps me a lot with overwhelm. Another thing is let go of pressure and comparison. Super important for me. Everyone is on their own journey, and I feel like there are different things that you have to deal with in life. For example, dealing with trauma when trauma came up, and for me, my trauma came up already now. So I'm dealing with all of that trauma that is from my childhood, and I'm in my early 20s. So I'm dealing with all of that now. But for other people, it maybe comes up when they're 50 because they have a huge divorce when they're 50, and then all of that comes up. So I think everyone's timeline is different, and also life is not a race, and you're not like that. Was a huge learning lesson for me. It's not my job to be better than anyone else. It's just my job to find a life that kind of works for me and that kind of makes me happy. Not all the time, but find some sort of purpose. But it's not for me to be better. And I think that's also a huge difference to school, because in school it was so many things were celebrated that in real life actually are super detrimental. Like perfectionism was celebrated, like who can write the perfect text. But if you try to put perfectionism in real life, you're gonna suffer a lot and you're much more likely to develop depression. So yeah, so really important to recognize that each person is on their own journey. And so life is not a race. Don't compare yourself to other people, because yeah, life is so weird. Also, life goes up and down, and it's confusing at times and complicated at times, and good things happen, horrible things happen. And yeah, so life's not a race. Focus on yourself, be content with yourself. And also really important, ask for help as well. I think that is also important to, if you're not sure what career you should take, you know, ask people like who maybe already have a career in that area where you want to do a career in. Like, how is it? Just ask people for help. I think that is important. The next one is follow your gut. That is super important too, because I think that your 20s is the time to actually figure out what do you want in life. What is it that drives you? What is your passion? What is, for me, my gut was telling me, hey, you should move to Spain. And so I'm following that gut. And even though I'm at times struggling because it's just so much and so overwhelming at times, I'm still, no, this is the right choice, because my gut says, like, it's so loud, it speaks to me and saying, hey, this is the right decision for you. So follow your gut, because your 20s is also the time where you don't have so much responsibilities yet, so you can try out things without there being so many bad outcomes if it doesn't work out. For example, this company, I started it when I was 18, and I invested years into it, like years of working on weekends. I invested in my company. I spent so much time on it, and I still don't have like the financial recompensation. So if I would have done that when I have children, I would have really endangered my family, because if my family would be, if I would be a single mom, for example. But now in my 20s, I just, like, if it doesn't work out, I just get a normal job. So it's not much failure. If you move to a different country and it doesn't work out, you just go back home again. So 20s is really your time to experience without there being so many negative consequences. And another one, that was what I really had to learn too, is that there is no rush. So for whatever reason, I was thinking life is ending at 30 and I should have everything figured out already by 30. But life is also in some ways long. So it's okay to at times take the time to smell the flowers. And yeah, so, and you also in some ways you decide what kind of life you want to lead. If you want to, for example, for me, my next goal is to move more to the countryside and have a slower pace of life. I don't want to stay in a city because it's just so overwhelming and just so many things, and I just really want peace and quiet and nature. And so you also decide a little bit what life you want to lead. And yeah, so I think that was important, that there's no rush and that you can actually have a certain amount of relaxing. And yeah, so I think that was important. And for me, but that's probably just a thing for me, date people that are more in my age, because I dated a lot of different guys, and it just made me, when I was dating a guy who was much older than me, that I really liked, amazing person, but it just gave me so much anxiety because I felt like, wow, this person has it figured out and I'm just here like trying and figuring things out. So now I'm dating someone who's a little bit more my age, and we're kind of figuring it out at the same time, and so it feels less stressful in a way. So that is super, super important. So if you're in your 20s, I think just try out things, and if it fails, don't be mean to yourself, be compassionate with yourself, because again, you come out of schools, you're not taught so many things that are necessary for your 20s, that like emotional regulation, for example. Nobody taught me about that. So don't be don't be angry with yourself for not knowing things that you were never taught. Do your best. That is really good. If you fail, no worries. Just one step at a time, and yeah, and you can make it. And but I think really better times are coming, because when you do the work now to follow your gut, figuring yourself out, what you like, what you don't like, hobbies that you want to have, how to have healthy relationships right now, you're really building the foundation that you will have a much better experience when you're older. If you already learn now how to have healthy relationships, you will benefit so much more once if you decide to have children, because if it fails when you're 35 or 40, it will just have a lot huge bigger consequences. So yeah, if you're struggling in your 20s, I'm here with you. I'm struggling too, just trying to figure things out, and one step at a time, I would say. And yeah, I'm for sure feeling with you. So thank you so much for watching. If you have a similar experience, write it down in the comment section, and like my video, subscribe to my channel for more information and videos, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you soon.